2/3 of Americans file for Social Security before their full retirement age. 2 out of 3. And the financial media treats this like a national embarrassment, like millions of people are sleepwalking into the same trap year after year because they simply didn't do the math. But here's what nobody in finance wants to admit out loud. Sometimes filing at 62 isn't a mistake at all. Sometimes it's the most strategically sound decision you can make. The Social Security Administration actually calibrated this system so that early claimers and late claimers theoretically collect the same lifetime total if they die at the average life expectancy. The government already did the math, and they built the entire system around it. So the real question isn't whether you should wait. The real question is, will waiting actually benefit you, specifically, given your health, your household, your assets, and your real life? Because generic advice built for the average American may not fit your situation at all. Today we walk through 7 legitimate, strategically sound reasons why claiming at 62 might actually be the smarter play for your retirement. Not excuses, not rationalizations. Real financial strategy. If you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. That's where you receive 100% of your primary insurance amount, your PIA, calculated from your highest 35 years of earnings. File at 62, 5 years early, and your benefit is permanently reduced by roughly 30%, not temporarily, not adjusted later, permanently. If your full benefit would be $4,000 a month, claiming at 62 drops it to approximately $2,800 a month, every month for the rest of your life. But wait until 70, and delayed retirement credits push that same benefit to approximately $5,160 a month. The spread between filing at 62 versus 70 is over $2,300 every single month. Over a full year, that's roughly $27,600. Now the question everyone asks, when does waiting actually pay off? This is the break-even point. Comparing 62 versus 67, break-even lands around age 78. Comparing 62 versus 70, break-even pushes to around age 80 to 81. Comparing 67 versus 70, you're looking at approximately age 82. Here's what that actually means. If you file at 62 and pass away at 76, you collected more total money than if you had waited, potentially tens of thousands of dollars more. But if you file at 62 and live to 85, the delayed filer wins, significantly. The system isn't broken. It's just indifferent to your individual circumstances, and that's exactly the problem with blanket advice. Your spouse cannot collect spousal benefits until you file for your own retirement benefits first. You are the gate. Until you open it, your spouse collects nothing based on your record. Spousal benefits can provide up to 50% of your full retirement age benefit. For households where one spouse has minimal work credits, that number represents real, meaningful monthly income. Say you're 62 with a strong earnings history. Your full benefit at 67 would be $4,000 a month. Your spouse has limited work history and no meaningful benefit of their own. If you wait until 70 to maximize your individual check, your spouse waits 8 additional years to receive a single dollar in spousal benefits. If that spousal benefit would have been $2,000 a month, you just surrendered $192,000 in household income to get a larger check for yourself. That's not optimization, that's individual math dressed up as household strategy. Stop thinking about Social Security as your benefit. Start thinking about it as your household's benefit. Run both columns, not just yours. The average American reaching age 62 can expect to live approximately 22 more years. That puts statistical life expectancy around 84. But that's an average. Half of people live longer, half live shorter lives. If your family history and current health conditions suggest you're more likely in the second half,
the math shifts dramatically. If you're comparing filing at 62 versus 70, and you don't realistically expect to live past 78, you will receive more total dollars by claiming early, because the higher monthly benefit you'd receive at 70 is only valuable if you live long enough to collect it. A benefit you never live to receive is worth exactly $0. If your father passed at 71, your mother at 74, and you've been managing a chronic condition for a decade, pretending you'll definitely reach 85 isn't optimism, it's wishful thinking dressed up as a financial plan. Social Security is insurance. If your retirement will likely be shorter, the insurance should pay out sooner. That's not giving up, that's rational capital allocation applied to your own life expectancy.
When one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse can switch to the deceased spouse's benefit if it's larger than their own. This is the survivor benefit, and it's based on what the deceased spouse was actually receiving at death, which means the timing of when each spouse files has permanent implications for the surviving spouse's income, potentially for decades. Here's a real scenario. You have health concerns. Your spouse has a significantly higher lifetime earnings record and is expected to live longer. You file at 62 on your own record, collecting payments while you're both alive. When you pass away, your spouse switches to their own larger benefit, which they've been growing independently. You generated income from your record during your lifetime. Your spouse keeps their stronger benefit intact. The household optimized both records based on realistic health expectations for each person. This is two-person financial chess, and it requires honest conversation about longevity that most couples avoid having until it's too late to act on. This one surprises people. Why would someone with significant retirement savings claim early? Shouldn't they be the ones who can afford to wait? Here's the logic most people miss. When you retire and stop earning income, you start drawing down your portfolio to cover living expenses. Every dollar you pull out of your investments stops compounding permanently. If you claim Social Security at 62 and use those payments to cover part of your monthly expenses, you reduce how much you need to withdraw from your portfolio. Your investments stay invested longer. They compound longer. Say your monthly expenses are $6,000. You claim at 62 and receive $2,800 a month. You only need to draw $3,200 from your portfolio instead of the full $6,000. You've cut your withdrawal rate nearly in half. There's another layer here. Financial planners call it sequence of returns risk. If the market drops sharply in your first few retirement years while you're withdrawing heavily from your portfolio, the damage can be permanent. You're selling beaten-down assets to pay for groceries. Those shares aren't there to recover when the market rebounds. Having Social Security income as a baseline, even a reduced baseline at 62, means you pull less from your portfolio during volatile periods. Your investments get breathing room. For some retirees with substantial assets, this structural protection is worth more than the larger monthly check at 70. This one is for the financially experienced. When you delay Social Security from 62 to 70, you're earning a guaranteed return of roughly 8% per year on the benefit increase. That's a compelling guaranteed return. But here's the question serious investors ask. What if I take the early payments and invest them myself? If you claim at 62 instead of 70, you receive 8 additional payments. Each payment is smaller, but over 8 years at our earlier example level, that's approximately $268,800 in payments you would not have received by waiting. Invest those payments into a diversified index portfolio. If your investments return 7 to 8% annually and you live long enough, the compounded value of those early payments can potentially exceed the lifetime value of the larger delayed benefit. Now let me be direct about the risk. Markets do not return 8% every year. Some years they return 20%, some years they lose 30%. If you invest early payments and the market delivers a lost decade, you've traded a guaranteed larger benefit for speculative returns that didn't materialize.
This strategy is exclusively for experienced, disciplined investors who have other income covering core expenses, who understand volatility, and who are making a calculated bet with full awareness of the downside. Not a gimmick, not a loophole, a real arbitrage decision with real risk and real potential upside. You're 62, you've stopped working, but in a few years, another guaranteed income stream is going to turn on. A pension from decades of public service, a deferred income annuity you purchased years ago, a defined benefit plan kicking in at 65. Whatever it is, you already built the floor. You already solved the guaranteed income problem. In that scenario, Social Security plays a completely different role. You don't need to maximize it to create stability in your later years. That stability is already arriving from another source. What you actually need is income for the gap years, the years between 62 and whenever that other stream begins. Claiming Social Security early fills that gap. It bridges you from retirement to the point where your other income turns on. Once that pension or annuity starts, your combined income likely exceeds your core expenses. Social Security becomes supplemental, not foundational. The key question is simple. Do you have enough saved to bridge 3 to 5 years of expenses without aggressively drawing down your portfolio? If yes, waiting might still make sense, but if claiming early smooths your income trajectory and you already have guaranteed income arriving later, claiming at 62 isn't leaving money on the table, it's intelligent income layering, sequencing your income streams in the order that makes structural sense for your specific retirement architecture.
This last reason is the most human one. A significant number of Americans reach 62 not by choice, but by necessity. Construction workers whose knees gave out at 58, nurses whose backs couldn't handle another shift, manufacturing workers whose bodies absorbed 30 years of repetitive strain and simply stopped cooperating. These aren't people who failed to plan. These are people whose bodies hit a wall that no financial spreadsheet could predict. And then there's age discrimination. Illegal, extremely difficult to prove, extremely common in practice. The resume that generated 10 callbacks at 42 generates 2 polite rejections at 62. The salary you built over 3 decades, nobody will match it now. If you cannot work and you don't have enough saved to cover expenses while you wait, Social Security exists for exactly this moment. Using a safety net when you're falling is not failure, it's the system functioning as intended. If you're still working with substantial earned income, filing early is almost certainly a mistake. The Social Security earnings limit in 2026 is $24,480 per year. Earn more than that while collecting before full retirement age, and Social Security withholds $1 for every $2 above the limit. You've taken a permanent 30% benefit reduction, and payments are being withheld on top of that. Worst of both worlds, no strategic benefit whatsoever. If Social Security will be your primary or only income source in retirement, you should strongly consider waiting as long as possible. The difference between $2,800 a month and $4,100 a month is not an abstraction. It's the difference between covering your expenses and not covering them. If you are in genuinely good health with strong family longevity, the math favors waiting. If your parents lived into their late 80s or 90s, if you exercise regularly, if you carry no significant chronic conditions, you are statistically likely to live past the break-even point. Waiting means more money over your lifetime, potentially a great deal more. First, know your actual numbers. Log into your Social Security account. Look at your benefit estimates at 62, 67, and 70. Write down the real dollar amounts. Every strategic conversation starts there. Second, assess your health honestly. Not pessimistically, not optimistically, honestly. Family history, current conditions, a candid conversation with your doctor. Use that information the way a serious investor uses any data point, without emotion, without denial, with clear eyes. Third, think in household terms.
If you are married, the question is never just what is the optimal filing age for me? The question is what is the optimal filing strategy for our household across both records, both health profiles, both life expectancies. Fourth, map your other income sources. Is Social Security the foundation of your retirement income or one layer in a multi-stream architecture? Your answer fundamentally changes the right filing strategy. Fifth, if this feels genuinely complex for your situation, consider a fee-only financial planner. Not commission-based, fee-only. A few $100s for personalized Social Security filing analysis can easily be worth tens of thousands in optimized lifetime benefits. That is not an exaggeration. That is just math.
The average retirement age in America is 62, not 67, not 70. 62. And the financial media treats that like evidence of mass incompetence. But that framing is lazy, and it's wrong. Some of those people made mistakes, but many of them made the right call for their specific health, household, assets, and realistic life expectancy. The financial industry loves universal rules because universal rules are easy to market. Always wait until 70 fits on a slide deck. It sounds authoritative, but it is not advice. It is a generalization dressed up as wisdom. Real financial intelligence is the ability to take a complex system, understand its actual mechanics, and apply those mechanics to your specific life, not to the life of a hypothetical average American who happens to share your birth year. The difference between the best filing strategy and the worst for your specific household can easily exceed $100,000 in lifetime benefits. For some households, it's closer to $200,000. That is not a rounding error. That is a life-altering sum of money. So stop letting generic advice make a personalized decision for you. Look at your numbers, assess your health, think about your household, map your income sources, and make the decision that is actually right for the life you are actually living. Because sometimes filing at 62 isn't leaving money on the table. Sometimes it's the most financially intelligent move you can make. And knowing the difference is exactly what separates people who follow generic financial advice from people who build genuinely optimized retirement income systems. If this gave you clarity, share it with someone within 5 years of retirement who hasn't had this conversation yet. The decision window closes faster than most people realize, and the cost of getting it wrong is one they'll carry for the rest of their lives.